Last time we ended our book about different birds and the different types of eggs that they have, and we ended it by talking about what they do when it gets cold outside, and then what they do when it starts to warm up again in spring. And we said that's called migration. Well, this book talks to us about how do birds find their way when they're traveling so far away in the fall for wintertime. How do they find their way to the warmer spot in the south where they're going? Central America or South America, it's a long way from North America. Do they take an airplane? Do they have a GPS or a map? We're going to find a little bit more about that now. I'd like you to listen for the name of scientists who study about birds and migration. There's a special name for those scientists. I'd like you to listen for the different ways that help birds find their way. I'd like you to listen again for different types of birds. Here we go. How do birds find their way? And there they are flying in that V formation. I'm sure you've seen that before with the geese in the fall when they start on their big trek south. We can watch birds fly from tree to tree, from tree to house, then back again. They seem to fly here and there and anywhere. And there's some people in their yard watching some birds in the tree. If we watch birds all year, we find that some seem to disappear in the fall. When the days get shorter and colder, they are flying south where it is warmer. And here's a picture where the leaves on the trees are turning brilliant orange and yellow. And over here we see the V shape of the geese starting to fly south. Early in spring, the first birds begin to come back again. Every spring, birds return north to make their nests, lay eggs, and hatch their babies. We say the birds are migrating. They are moving from their winter homes in the south to their summer homes in the north. Once they reach their northern homes, they will build nests. They may build nests in trees or shrubs or on porch ledges, or like the woodpeckers, they may bore holes down into trees and make their cozy nests inside. Some go to the same nesting area that they left from, or even the same exact nest that they used the summer before. And here's some different types of nests that we talked about in our last book. Here's one made with a whole bunch of string. You can even see some colorful bits of yarn in there. And that's the oriole bird making that. And here's one made of straw. That's the barn swallow right here. And here's, of course, is the woodpecker, and he used his sharp beak to make a hole in the tree for his babies. Long ago, people did not know that some birds migrate. They thought the birds hid in holes in the ground like frogs and hibernated all winter. Some people guessed that birds spent the winter in the mud on the bottom of ponds. And there is a picture of a bird hibernating in the mud, but that's really not what they do. That's just what they thought they did. We know now where these birds go. When birds start to migrate, ornithologists, I'm going to say that again, ornithologists, scientists who study birds, use traps and nests to catch a few of them. They put bands on their legs and then let the birds go. The bands do not hurt the birds. Each band has a code on it that tells where and when the bird was banded, so they can keep track of where they fly to. There's the bird's foot and the little bracelet on there, but it doesn't hurt the bird. It just has a number on there or a code that helps them keep track of where he flew to. Some birds migrate for weeks because they stop along the way. If you're going on a family trip, do you stop to get some food or go to the bathroom? Other birds fly for only a few days. Some birds fly thousands of miles when they migrate. we know that the Orioles fly south to Panama. That is a long flight. I flew on an airplane one time to Panama, and I can tell you, it's a long flight, even in an airplane. And barn swallows fly to Central and South America. So you can see up here is our continent of North America, and in between this little strip here is Central America, and then down below South America. So that's a long way for these birds to fly. Hummingbirds weigh only as much as a penny. Have you seen those beautiful hummingbirds flying from flower to flower with the tiny but long skinny beak and the fluttering wings? I love the hummingbirds. Well, some of them weigh only as much as a penny. And yet they fly over water for 500 miles without stopping when they migrate. Arctic terns fly more than 10,000 miles, all the way from North Maine to the South Pole. We know that the South Pole is at the very bottom of the globe. They don't stop at Central or South America. They fly right to the South Pole. That's the Arctic tern. But how do the birds know where to go? And how do they find their way? That's the big mystery. And there's some beautiful pictures of the birds flying over the water and beside the mountains. This is the barn swallow and the Arctic tern. This is the one that flies all the way to the South Pole. Some birds may follow rivers, mountain ranges, or seashores. So some birds follow the shore, and that helps of oceans and rivers, that helps them find their path. Some birds follow mountain ranges, the path of the mountains, but many birds find their way over the ocean, so they're not following a path, they're over top of the ocean. There seems to be nothing there to guide them. What keeps the birds from flying in circles? Ornithologists, those bird scientists, have some ideas about how birds know which way is north or south. North, south. Birds migrate both in the daytime and at night. So how do they know where they're going at nighttime? When the birds fly by day, they use the sun to guide them. Birds seem to know what time of day it is and can use the sun's position to find north and south. They know that to fly south in the morning when the sun is in the east, they must have the sun on their left. So they can tell by the direction of where the sun is where they need to be. For birds to fly south in the afternoon, the sun must be on the right. So at different times of the day, the sun needs to be on different sides of them. But when birds fly at night, the stars help them to find their way. So in the day, the sun helps them. At night, the stars help them. Scientists have tested this idea. Birds were put in a big planetarium where the position of the stars could be moved. So a planetarium is actually a building. It's not actually outside at nighttime. It's a building, and they have the lights turned off, but then there's tiny little lights that simulate stars and the solar system and the moon and the sun. So simulate means there's pretend stars and suns and moons in the dark sky on the roof of the building inside. So it's supposed to look like it's night, and it's supposed to look like the night sky. So they put birds inside this planetarium building with the night sky to see what they would do. Scientists who work in the planetarium place the stars in the sky as we see them. The birds flew in one direction, but when the pattern of the stars was switched around or changed, the birds flew in a different direction. So they could tell that the birds were following the direction of the stars. They flew in one direction until the stars were changed by the ornithologists in the planetarium to a different direction. Then the birds followed that direction. it was clear that the birds had noticed that the position of the stars had changed. So there's the night sky in the planetarium where the planetarium workers were changing the position of the stars and the birds were changing their direction as well, that they were flying. So that helped the ornithologists or the bird scientists to know how the birds could find their way at nighttime by using the direction of the stars. But birds can also find their way when it is cloudy. So they can find their way but in the daytime by the position of the sun, find their way at nighttime by the direction of the stars, but they can also find their way when they can't see the sun or the stars when it's cloudy. They fly when they cannot see the sun during the day or the stars at night. How do they know which way to go? One idea is the birds are able to use the Earth's magnetic field to guide them. The magnetic field is an invisible force that surrounds the Earth. So it's strongest near the North and the South Pole. You have seen magnets before. You've seen that they attract metal things. And sometimes if they're very strong magnets, they pull those metal things right up to them. Well, at the top of the globe and the bottom of the globe, the North Pole and the South Pole, there's a magnetic force that we can't see, that it's just part of our atmosphere. And the ornithologists think that some birds have a built-in compass in their body. You've seen a round compass before? Well, the magnetic field makes that compass arrow face north. That force of the magnetism makes that needle point up to the north. Well, the ornithologists say that they think those birds have a built-in compass in their bodies that helps them feel which way is north so they can fly north, or which way is south so they can fly south, east or west. Isn't that cool the way God gave birds a compass inside their body? So there's a picture of the North Pole and the South Pole and the magnetic field or force that is in the atmosphere that helps them know which way to go. Homing pigeons are especially good at finding their way. When they are taken far away from home, they are usually able to find their way back. Scientists have experimented with these pigeons. They put special covers over their eyes so the pigeons could not see very well. Even when the pigeons could not see, they were able to return back home again. There's the homing pigeon that somehow inside it can know how to get back home even when it can't see very well. That's pretty cool, eh? Another kind of bird called a Manx shearwater, was carried from England to the United States, a distance of about 3,000 miles. In 12 days, it was back in England in its own nest. Isn't that cool? So this bird, another type of bird that's really good at finding its way back home, called the Manx shearwater, was taken all the way from England to the United States, Massachusetts, the state in the United States, and it's a distance of about 3,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles from where it was taken from England to the United States, 3,000 miles, and it only took it 12 days to fly all the way back to its own nest, right back to its own nest. It could find its way. God has made his creation, including birds, with some awesome, incredible parts that help them to do really interesting things, like find their way back home again over those long, long miles, 3,000 miles. How do birds know when it's time to leave for the south? How do they know it's going to get colder? Can they look at a calendar? Scientists know that birds have a built-in calendar. Just like they have that built-in compass, they have a built-in calendar. This calendar tells the birds that when the days become shorter in the fall, it's time to migrate south. So they can tell when the days are getting shorter that it's time for them to start getting ready to go south. When the days become longer, it is spring and it's time to migrate north. When fall approaches, birds eat a lot of food to store energy for their long flight. It takes a lot of energy to fly that long distance. So they eat a lot of food when they sense the days are getting shorter to get them ready for their long flight. All at once, they are gone again. They have started to migrate. Here they are eating berries just before they go. Several months later, the birds are getting ready to migrate again. They must make their long journey to the north. So it's warmed up. It's springtime. It's time to build nests, lay eggs, and raise babies. And there they are. You can tell that it's springtime. The leaves are out. There's berries on the trees. We have solved some of the mysteries of bird migration. We know where birds go. We also know how high and fast they fly. Some birds fly as high as 5 miles above the earth, but most birds fly about half a mile above the ground. Some fly very fast, over 50 miles an hour, when the wind is blowing in the same direction that they are flying. Even though people have watched birds for thousands of years, we still do not have all the answers about bird migration. But ornithologists keep trying. Maybe you will be one of them. So there's a picture of a woman watching and studying birds.